I mean, so if at the end of the Biden administration, the beginning of Trump's term, you had a percentage in your head of what's the chance of a US-China conflict in the next 5, 10 years, and that number's X, I don't know, let's say it's 25%. What would that number be today?
It's a great question. Um, I'm going to evade putting a precise percentage on it. I'll just say that up front. And my number, I do not think this is inevitable or even likely because I think there are sufficient steps we can take to deter a dramatic action by China against Taiwan. And in the absence of that, I think direct military conflict between the U.S. and China can be averted. But I do think that the more we send a signal to China that we may not be prepared to play our role in maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait, that the U.S. position is shifting in a real way on this, I do think the odds of potential conflict go up. Now, on what time frame, it's hard to say. I think President Trump is mainly focused on trying to avoid it while he's president, probably cares a little less what happens shortly thereafter. But I do think this series of actions has made the issue more acute, and I think that should be of real concern.
So, my final question, you've known me for a long time as somebody who writes about the NSC, and I always thought this was a kind of a, you know, guaranteed me career security because there would always be an NSC. But there doesn't seem to be much of one now. Uh, Marco Rubio is still the acting national security advisor, but Trump doesn't really seem to want advice much. Um, and any comment you've got on that is welcome. But there does seem to be some kind of process brewing out there for national security strategy and a national defense strategy. And inside of what we're hearing is coming there, and inside of what we're seeing is something that's pretty big in my view. And that is what we're hearing is downplaying the China threat, uh, shifting the focus to domestic issues, uh, shifting the focus to our borders, to the threat of drug cartels, something that mimics the allocating of troops, National Guard, into our cities. The sort of a new domestic focus to U.S. national security that, is not like it was during the so-called war on terror. It's something very different. And I was just wondering, as a final point, what your view is on what we're hearing is becoming the formalized national security strategy of the U.S.
I think I am hearing the same thing, from publicly available sources. We are seeing it play out with uses of the military focused on the homeland. We are seeing it play out in comments like what Secretary Bessent recently said on a podcast. He said something along the lines of, we need to take the war on terror methodology and apply it to basically the financing of progressive groups. Now, the link he was trying to make was somehow these groups are financing violence and extremism and so forth. But the import of it is basically a mindset that says all of the tools that got developed across the U.S. national security enterprise for the war on terror are now, in effect, going to start being applied against people in the United States, including this administration's political opponents, including law-abiding U.S. citizens. And I think this is extremely dangerous. And they're not hiding it. They're going out and saying these things. And I think we are likely to see from the national defense strategy a similar kind of emphasis and a fusion then of issues related to drug smuggling, immigration, and domestic law enforcement, all adding up to a pretext to act more assertively against people in the United States with the military, with the intelligence community, and with the power of the federal government through, tax enforcement, financial sanctions, etc. This is the direction of travel. And it's not something we need to predict. It's something that is unfolding as we speak. And I think that we need not just people in the opposition party to speak out on this. We need people in the Republican Party to say this is incredibly dangerous.
No doubt. As big a shift as we saw away from traditional policies in the wake of 9/11, a shift that will distract us from bigger geopolitical issues like the ones we've been talking about here, and will weaken us at home and undermine our credibility.